Tens of millions around the world have been saying goodbye to, in some cases, the only monarch they've ever known. But for some nations in the Commonwealth, grief is complex. There is mourning for Queen Elizabeth after a 70-plus-year reign, while for others, it's a reminder of long-standing and controversial ties to the royal family, ties that have sparked calls for reparations, a formal apology, and complete separation. Our Victor Oquendo has a closer look at how these feelings are playing out, especially in the Caribbean.
From Canada,
long live the King,
to Australia,
God save the King,
to India, South Africa, and the Bahamas,
God save the King.
King Charles III becomes the head of the Commonwealth. Across the Caribbean, flags are at half-staff, and while not everyone is grieving, some join in to remember the Queen as a strong female figure for her service and duty during her reign.
The remembrance of her and all of her good that she's done, I think it's quite memorable to remember.
I'm feeling a little sad because we all grew up knowing the Queen.
For others, her legacy is forever linked to Britain's colonial past.
It's a little weird because, you know, she did encourage, promote, and basically stand for a lot of hateful and bad, terrible things. I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong. Let me begin.
Part of the problem for us in Jamaica is that this very monarch participated in our enslavement. She's the head of the Church of England, and the Church of England owns enslaved people in Barbados.
An area of discomfort is the fact that the Queen, although she brought so much goods to her role, she's also a queen that belongs to an institution that has a long history with slavery that brought much destruction, death, and family conflicts to those countries. And so for many, it feels like the only way to really break away from that past is also to break away from the monarchy.
Of the 56 Commonwealth nations, King Charles is head of state for 15 of them, known as the Commonwealth Realms, an association of nations that maintain similar values and cultural and economic ties with Britain. 8 of those are Caribbean countries, which still recognize the British monarch as their head of state. But the long-standing debate around cutting their ties to the monarchy is still very alive in the region.
I think this is the time to actually shed that cloak of colonialism and try to see how we could forge and form our own Belizean identity.
I personally don't see where England or the Queen actually gives us real support. The country seems like it's running on its own for the most part, so I'm all for us being a republic.
Last year, Barbados removed the Queen as head of state and became a republic, with then Prince Charles attending the ceremony. And earlier this year, the Prince and Princess of Wales were met with protests on their Caribbean tour to celebrate the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, which included visits to Jamaica, Belize, and the Bahamas. And Jamaica's Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, telling Prince William of the path they intend to follow.
We're moving on, and we intend to fulfill our true ambitions and destiny as an independent, developed, prosperous country.
I think we had already started to see somewhat of a domino effect for the conversation about many of the Commonwealth realm countries becoming republics after Barbados declared their full independence last year. But of course, the death of the Queen does accelerate that process a little further. I think many of the countries within the Commonwealth had been waiting for the moment where the Queen would pass and they would be able to move forward without causing offence to that impressive 70-year reign of the monarch.
Antigua and Barbuda plan to hold a referendum within the next 3 years. People will go to the polls and vote on whether or not to become a republic, and the Bahamas considering the same.
Is that on the table, that referendum?
For me, it is always, but again, it is our people who will have to decide.
Calls not only to remove the monarch as head of state, but for Britain to grant reparations as well.
We are no longer in a time where visiting school children and shaking hands is sufficient, that we have to talk about building a relationship that is based on an equal power dynamic, that recognize the power that our region brings to your region and try to level that power through reparations.
Both King Charles and Prince William made unprecedented statements this past year.
From the darkest days of our past and the appalling atrocity of slavery, which forever stains our history,
I want to express my profound sorrow. Slavery was abhorrent, and it should never have happened.
But across the Caribbean Commonwealth, pro-reparations groups demand that the royals formally acknowledge the role their ancestors played in slavery and colonial rule, for the suffering and plundering of riches which contributed to the wealth of Britain and the monarchy.
The British taxpayers just stopped paying the enslavers for the reparations that the enslavers received in 2015. Sorry is okay, but we need the acknowledgement that includes responsibility for your actions.
So health, education, to make university education free, that's what we would love to see in the reparation payback. And we need an apology from King Charles III. He must apologize for slavery and the rule of the monarchy.
Outside the Caribbean, calls for what is considered stolen history to be returned by the royal family, like the Great Star of Africa, the largest uncut diamond in the world, to go home to South Africa. And in India, the return of this diamond, which sits in the Queen's crown. A complex debate for these nations at the beginning of King Charles III's reign and the future of the Commonwealth. And in the Caribbean, a complicated feeling of grief, where many mourn the loss of a long-standing figure, while others focus on building what they consider a better future.
The starting point for any kind of healing, for any kind of closure, is to admit that you did wrong or your ancestors did wrong, and to tender an apology for that.
I think it's a shame that it took this for the conversation to be reignited, but I have always been someone who believes that countries need to kind of set their own course and write their own destiny.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.